after they had eaten of the tree, it said that now they knew they were naked and they covered themselves. Now, prior to them eating of the tree, they said that they were naked and not ashamed. But then when they ate of the tree, then it said that they knew they were naked and they covered themselves and hid. See, we try to cover up too much stuff. We try to cover up with makeup, try to cover up with clothing, try to cover up with assets, try to cover up with money, try to cover up with fame. But let me tell you something. If God made you, don't you know that you don't need to hide yourself? You need to come right out in the open so everybody can see. This is who I am. Like it or lump it, love it or leave it. I got this because God made me.
That's right. That's right.
They hid themselves. And God does to us the same thing that he did to Adam and Eve. And he does the same thing to Israel that he did to Adam and Eve in our text on today. In Isaiah chapter 1, we find that Israel has gone astray. They have sinned. They have messed up. Have gotten into a whole bunch of debauchery, a whole bunch of wickedness. And instead of them just coming and repenting, they go and they hide behind their wickedness. But God says in Isaiah 1:18, he says, come, let's reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, I'll make them as white as snow. He said, come here, let's talk about this thing. I know you messed up, but can we just talk? See, that's the same thing he did to Adam and Eve in the garden. He said, Adam, where are you? He said, where are you? Come on out. I need you to talk to me. I know you messed up. I know you did wrong. But come here, let's talk. And many times we don't get up and come and talk to God and tell him what's going on because we are too embarrassed. And we get locked down in condemnation. We get locked down in feeling guilty. We get locked down in all of our burdens and all of our guilt and all of our shame. But God is saying, come, let's reason together. Let's talk about this. Let's get this thing straight. Only thing I need you to do is come and let's have a conversation. But now we're too afraid to have the conversation, or we feel like it's too late to have the conversation because I've already messed up. But don't worry about that. God said, come, let's talk. And many times we don't come when God calls us. And we choose to stay in our mess, stay in our funk, stay in our depression, stay where we are because we feel too ashamed. But God begins to continue to call. I don't care where you've gone. I don't care what you've done. God is calling you. He said, I know that you had adultery. I know that you had fornication. You had sex outside of marriage. I know that you had the abortion. I know that you did all of these things. He said, but don't hide. Come, let's talk about this. I know that you lied. I know that you stole some stuff. I know that you've been LOL smiley facing. I know you've been doing all this stuff. He said, but come, let's talk. Let's have some conversations. Let's have some conversations because I don't want you to stay in a Swagga Jacked condition. But watch this. When we don't come, God said, okay, since you won't come, I'll leave you there for a little while. I'll leave you to your own devices. And that's when the enemy comes and jacks our swagger. And so watch this. Now when we get to Isaiah 59, God says, he said, look, let's go to verse number 16. See, he realizes that you are in a Swagga Jacked condition. And he says, okay, since you won't come, and I see that nobody else is helping you, and you realize you can't help yourself. He says, so now, since you can't do it, I'm going to come to you. Okay? I'm going to come to you. He says, now I see that there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor, nobody to go in between. He said, therefore his arm has brought unto him salvation, and his righteousness is sustained him. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head, and put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and was clad with zeal as a cloak. He says, according to their deeds, according he will repay. Because, watch this, he realized that you didn't do it on your own. You received a suggestion from the original Swagga Jacker. He talked you into doing what you did. And so because you did what you did, you lost your swagger. And nobody came to help you. Nobody came to rescue you. So God says, since you won't come to me, I'm going to come to you. Because I realize you can't get out of this by yourself. So I have to come. Watch this. And when God comes, he is not just coming as a king on a throne. He is not just coming as a ruler who's sitting on a throne. He is coming in a whole different personification. Watch this. He says in verse 20, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. He is coming as a redeemer. He said, now since I realize you won't come, I was a beckoning voice. Now I have to come down and rescue you myself. I have to pull you out of the mess that you're in. I have to change your environment, change your situation, break the yokes and break the bondages off of you, because I'm coming as a redeemer. I'm not going to let you sit back here and be like you are, because you are greater than where you are, and I come to redeem you. And watch this. He says, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. Now, the word Zion is a euphemism for the city of Jerusalem, because it was the city of God. But when you go back and you study the word Zion is a Hebrew word that literally means dry. Okay, stay with me. It means dry. And then when you go and you study one of the root words, it not only means dry, but it means visible, like a signpost. So he's saying, you are dry and everybody knows you're dry. You messed up, everybody knows you messed up. Folk knew that you had the divorce. Folks saw you when you messed up. Folk knew about the affair that you were caught up in. Folk knew about your house being foreclosed on. People knew about your car being repossessed. People knew about the lie you got caught up in. People knew about the scandal that you were caught up in. People knew that you had a child out of wedlock. People knew all of this stuff. It became very visible. It was obvious, and it was apparent that you were in a dry situation. But he said, watch this. God is coming to Zion. He's coming to your dry situation. He's coming to your messed up situation. He knew that you lost your job, and since you couldn't get yourself out of your rut and out of your depression, God is coming where you are to rescue you. Okay. He said, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will raise up a standard against him. Because the enemy has jacked your swagger, God said, I am coming to rescue you. Watch this. He said, not only am I coming to rescue you, he said, because I'm coming to those that turn from their transgression in Jacob. Now let me let you in on something. This looks like you just turned. You just said, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. But how many times have you stopped doing what you've been trapped in? A few times. Okay. For a minute, if you count those, Tim, do me a favor, go back there in that closet and bring me that dolly that's in there. I need you to make space there. Okay. Just begin to count. How many times you tried to get out of the stuff that you've been in? Think about it. Now, how many times when you've tried to get out of the stuff that you're in, you end up going right back into it? Just think about it. I just want you to think for a minute. You've tried it over and over and over again. But you've been stuck in the same situation. You keep on making the same mistakes, doing the same thing, operating in the same modus horrendous. And see, this valley represents the stuff you've been wrapped up in. It's beat up, it's old, it's dirty. Come here, Dave.